Hello everyone and welcome to another Roaring Records tutorial. If you haven't already watched the chord trigger tutorial, you might want to watch that one before you watch this. It's just going to come back around in the end, but today we're going to talk about the arpeggiator. And this is another one of our lovely MIDI effects that can really make some quite fun music out of some basic piano skills. So like before, we're going to use our classic electric piano. We're going to make sure that we can see our track inspector using this little eye up here. We want to be able to access this because we're going to add a MIDI effect, which is right here, meaning we're just manipulating the MIDI information before it's actually turned into sound waves. We're going to click on our down arrow, and this time we're looking at the arpeggiator. So what the arpeggiator does is turn a chord or set of notes, even if it's not a chord, into a cycle of notes where it will run through the notes in different ways. So let me give you an example. I'm going to play a C chord now with my arpeggiator turned on to its factory default. So it's actually rolling through the notes bottom to top, and I know it's doing that because it's set to do this. If I wanted to reverse it, I could do this. Now it's going top to bottom in my note stack. Here's up and then down. And other various options that you have here. You can also add multiple octaves to that. Say I want to just play one octave C chord, but I want it to go up and down for 3 octaves. I'll start lower this time. So now it's going up and down a total of 3 octaves, or you can get some variation in there. So, different variations. What if you wanted to change the rate or the speed that it was happening at? That's over here. So now we can go eighth notes. So that's a little bit different. All sorts of different stuff that you can do. You can do inversions of the chords, octave range, flip back and forth on those. Lots of different stuff. But really, I think this gets most fun in the grid mode. And grid mode, to me, is where this tool begins to shine, especially the Logic version. So what you have right here is saying that it's going to progress through this one note at this velocity no matter what you do. So now no matter how hard I press the keyboard, it's not going to change velocity, which is cool. But what if I wanted to do more than just that one note? What if I wanted to play an 8th note? Let's actually go back to 16th notes. Play a 16th note, skip a 16th note, play 2 16th notes, skip a 2, play 2 more, and another, and I'm just being kind of random now. What if I want this to be the rhythm that it plays for the measure? So now when I play my chord, it's actually going to skip these 16th notes where there's no blue bar. Now there's a lot more rhythmic integrity to that than there was to the just straight, which could get old really fast. This is a little better. Another thing you can do is come down here in the bottom where the chord stacks are and actually have it play all the chord notes you're playing at once whenever it gets to that particular one. So here we go. So that's kind of neat to be able to get the chords and everything mixed up. Is there more I can do? Sure. The higher I push the blue, the more the velocity. The lower I push the blue, the less the velocity. So you can actually adjust that velocity pattern to be stronger or weaker. Or you can change the length of the notes. Maybe I want this to be 2 of those, or maybe I want it to be a whole like bar worth, beat worth of something, or maybe I want it to be a little shorter. All I'm doing is clicking and dragging here to get different rhythmic values out of what's happening. Probably rather have this one as a that sounds a little more normal, for lack of a better term. So all sorts of different stuff that you can combine, mix, match, throw around in this. It's where you get so many different options for what's available to you there. Now, if you find something you really like, let's say this was a C chord in this. Then I drag while I'm holding the keys from this region over, and it actually wrote it into my piano roll in the actual notes that it was thinking and playing. So that's pretty cool. Now you can go back and make some minor revisions. The only thing to remember is that when you get ready to play this later, you want to power down the arpeggiator, or it's going to try to arpeggiate based on what you have written here, which is not going to be the ideal scenario. So once you've moved it over into the MIDI region, then if you're doing this version, power it off. If you leave it power on, then all you really have to write into the MIDI region if you record is the actual chords. Now I'm just going to quantize this up right quick. And slide it over 1/16 note. Now I've got my chords written, and as long as my arpeggiator stays powered on, that's going to play back just the way it recorded in. So you can have either option there. You can pull it across into the MIDI data as you hear each of the notes being played, or you can just play the chords and leave the arpeggiator on. Totally up to you. So that's all well and good. Now, like I said earlier, if you've watched the chord trigger video, this is where it's going to get interesting. You can actually combine your chord triggers and your arpeggiators. The only trick is to make sure you get them in the right order. Everything in the track inspector reads from top to bottom. You don't want to arpeggiate and then chord trigger, because your notes would be bouncing all over the place. But you can chord trigger and then arpeggiate. So now I've got my chord trigger stacked to happen first, my arpeggiator stacked to happen second. I'm going to bring up my diatonic chords in the key of C again. Now we're going to have this one chord trigger and this one arpeggiate what has been chord triggered. So I'll try to get these so you can kind of see both things happen here. And notice my finger, one finger. So now I'm creating these really pretty unique sounding chord and arpeggiations, but I'm only using one finger on the piano. Bach, Mozart, Beethoven, you had nothing on me. My one finger can do more than you ever dreamed. That's not true. That's really not true. But it's a really cool, useful set of tools to make much, much more interesting music. I hope you found this helpful. Enjoy, go forth, make great music.